and welcome back to the Manchester United podcast. Sorry, the Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is the Thunder from Down Under. It's Tom Simpson from the United Pubcast. How's it going, Tom?
Yeah, very well, very well. The weekend hasn't been ruined. As I say, no football or no Manchester United to ruin the weekend, which is good, which is a positive. There's a hot day here in Sydney, touched on 40 degrees, but enjoyable as ever. But while there is no football, obviously, as the headline would suggest, there is a little bit of news which came out of nowhere, and I think that is probably a good thing in terms of how the news did come out. There was no leaks, there was no inclination, and it has. Look, we don't know how the future will unfold, but potentially, hopefully, change the future of Manchester United.
Yeah, it is a winter morning here and a summer evening in Australia. It's very
It,
strange.
it is hot. It is hot.
Yeah, 40 degrees. I'm very jealous. I mean, it's 9 o'clock in the morning here, and it's still dark, and it's wet and wintry outside.
The
So it
sun's
couldn't
still
be.
out here. It's 8 o'clock at night here. The sun's still burning down.
Yeah, I had to put the lights on here in
Mm,
the room because it's so dark outside. Yeah, the conditions couldn't be more opposite where we are.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, let's get on to the news at hand, and that's that Manchester United have appointed a new CEO, and that is Omar Berrada, who was Citigroup's chief football operations officer, and he was tipped to become their new CEO if and when, as they call it, Tixie, whenever he
Yeah.
retired. Um, so this seems like a huge coup for Manchester United. I think he's been working at City since 2011. Um, I believe that he originally worked at Barcelona as well. So Ineos must have really sold him the project very well for him to leave such a successful football operation to come to an absolute mess at Manchester United. But he's obviously anticipating that he can turn it around, and that Manchester United is going to turn around under Ineos. So, what's your thoughts on the appointment then, Tom?
Yeah, look, I can't sit here and say, look, I know about him. It's a CEO I've wanted forever. It's not the first I heard of him was a few hours ago when the news did break. But ultimately, we have no idea about this guy. All we can go by is his results and look at the success of the clubs he was at the time he was there, and that screams success. And if he's the person in charge or one of the people in charge, he's obviously had a major input in that success. So you can only take positives from that. I'm sure when he comes through the door, he will critique this decision, will celebrate this decision, etc. That'll be the life of a Manchester United fan. But ultimately, without any knowledge of him, you can only sit here and say, this is good news. Now, we can dissect it. A couple of weeks ago, we were saying Jean-Claude Blanc, and that's good because Ineos are bringing him in. Then there was news coming out, well, hang on, it's still the Manchester United CEO. The Glazers still own the majority of the club. We know their financial ambitions. Okay, they're going to sort of have a real say in this. And then you're leaning towards, oh no, it's going to be a financial appointment, maybe another banker sort of thing. And you start to get a little bit sort of concerned there. Then ultimately it swings back in the favour end of the statement from Manchester United is fascinating in regards they mention it with a focus on football compared to what our previous CEOs have had and where their focus has been. But how this news has come out and where just it points to in regards to the differences between Richard Arnold and Ed Woodward, and now you're looking at someone who's run a football operation at Barcelona and Manchester City, this screams like it's an Ineos decision, and they've had the influence in getting this over the line. Look, we can debate till the cows come home. Yes, Sir Jim in, are you Qatar in, Qatar out, Sir Jim out, all these discussions. Ultimately, I see this as only as a step in the right direction. Now, how far in the right direction that goes, time will tell. Who knows? But ultimately, we're in a far better position today than we were yesterday. And look, we're simple creatures. In my opinion, that's all we can ask for.
Yeah, I suppose the CEO isn't really a sexy role. We're probably more interested in who the director of football is going to be, who the head of recruitment is going to be, and the long term, who the manager is going to be. But this is obviously a very important appointment. And you alluded to the club statement there that said the club is determined to put football and performance on the pitch back at the heart of everything we do. Omar's appointment represents the first step in this journey. It almost seems like a dig from Ineos at their fellow shareholders there.
That's what I was going to ask you, and I was going to have a discussion later with Larry on our show, and I was just like, It's two different departments. There's Manchester United, that's sort of the global business, the financial and the commercial side of things. And then there's the football department, and is the football department really only 25%? And that's Ineos. But let's split it in half. Well, this whole business, a commercial side and a sporting side. And we're looking at, well, in terms of the club as a whole, you can understand the Glazers making this decision, and rightfully so. They own the club, and it's more than just a football club on the pitch. There are many sort of factors to it, so you can understand why the majority shareholder wants a huge say in who the CEO is. Of course, whether we like it or not, I'm sure we don't like it, but you can understand that. That's sort of clear as day. But this looks like it's come from Ineos. And I just think, in regards to that statement, look, the Glazers are going to have to sign off on this. And I just think it is but they're signing off on it. So I don't understand how they have, because it is in my opinion, a clear dig at themselves. Are they sort of, they're not in a position where they've got to throw themselves under the bus. And look, it's not a dagger to the heart or anything, but you're right. In regards to the statement, it is a real dig at the Glazers. And I'm just unaware of motives and how that's come about. Have they signed off on it? Is it Ineos really digging the boot in? Is it sort of look? It's good to see. I'm very happy, but it just, as I say, it just sort of highlights our unfortunate problems we have suffered over the last decade.
Yeah, perhaps the Glazers have just completely checked out now when it comes to the football operation, and are just simply there to make as much money as possible. Well,
It's
that was
still
always
also I don't want to say good PR for the Glazers, but they're not going to get Manchester United fans on side. Far from that. That is never going to happen. I'm not alluding to that being a motive, but kind of it's not a step in the right direction, because the Glazers can't go in the right direction. But if they kind of say, okay, we're going in a new direction, we'll hold up, we've made mistakes in the past, well, we're going to make a football decision now. Well, it's not going to turn Manchester United fans in favour of the Glazers. It's, as I say, it's better than yesterday. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, so from Joe Glazer and Richard Arnold to Jean-Claude Blanc and Omar Berrada, I'd call that a good start. But you mentioned Jean-Claude Blanc there. Originally, we thought that he was going to be the new CEO, but what has happened is that they've decided to make him one of Ineos's two directors instead, because that gives him a permanent role at the club and gives him more influence. Whereas CEO can be sacked by the board, so he wouldn't be very stable in his role. So I can see the reasoning behind all that. So they've brought in a football director from Manchester City, which is a complete surprise to everyone. One of the best things about this is that they kept it completely quiet from the media. It just sprung out of nowhere. David Ornstein is always the first guy on it, and then within an hour, United announced it officially. So this is the first of many bricks to be built in this new Ineos project at Manchester United, which is hopefully going to turn around the club's fortunes. And prioritising football is obviously the first step, because it's hard to believe, isn't it, that a football club hasn't prioritised football for well over a decade. You could probably argue we haven't prioritised football since 2005, but certainly since 2013. And once we do that, it gives us a chance of actually being successful. But let's see. Certainly, Ineos, it's not been plain sailing for them at Nice since they took over in 2019. But this season, they've been doing a lot better. They're in a title race in Ligue 1. I think second in the table. So hopefully it doesn't take them that long to get it right at United. But if it does, then I'm willing to be patient. Um, so I just wanted to ask you about now we're going to be replacing John Murtagh. He might stay in a different capacity, but it seems almost certain that United are going to bring in a new uh, director of football, and we know that Ineos want Dan Ashworth. Well, if they can get an executive from Man City, they can get the director of football from Newcastle. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously, Paul Mitchell's been linked with the role of head of recruitment as well. If they get all three of those in, that's going to be enormous. But the issue is, will these new owners stick with Eric Ten Hag? I'm not 100% convinced they will. Now, we know with every football club in the past, can you name an example of a club that's kept the incumbent manager long term? There has been examples where they have give them a wee bit of time. Mark Hughes, maybe at Man City, is an example of that. But eventually they get rid of them and bring in their own man. So, do you see Ten Hag being here in August, Tom?
Look, it's tough. I think it's one of the ones, rightly or wrongly, he'll almost be on trial now until the end of the season. See what he does now. What's going to define success? Is it FA Cup or bust, or is it a top four finish, or is it good football? That's for the higher ups to determine. So I'm not sure what is a pass mark for Eric Ten Hag in this next couple of months, but I do believe he will be a little bit on show. And look, I side on the fence of an Eric Ten Hag fan. I would like to see him given more time and sort of given a role in this new football department. If someone disagrees with that, well within their right to, and they have evidence sort of to point to. But I do like Eric Ten Hag, and I would say this with a lack of knowledge of European managers, but I say, okay, sack him. Okay, name a manager out there. Now, I'm sure someone could name a manager for me. I don't know. Like now, under a new structure, I'm sure a lesser manager could come in and maybe look better than what our previous managers have looked like under Ed Woodward, Richard Arnold, and the Glazers, etc. So hopefully, regardless of the manager, the new football department will make it a far smoother transition for both players and manager, etc. Long story short, in regards to your question, do I expect him to be here in August? I think it's almost flip of a coin. I would like to see, and I do have faith in him. And when the players do come back, of not a sort of not a finish that is where we need to be, but a better finish than where we're expecting to finish at the moment. I do think it'll be a decent enough finish to the season. I do sort of blind optimism or not, I have a little bit of faith in our FA Cup run. Eric Ten Hag obviously made the final last season, so I do have a bit of faith that it won't be a disastrous end of the season. I think we've been through our bad spell. I do believe it will turn around a little bit, maybe not to the levels we want it to be. And then in August, look, if the new football department do have a manager out there who they believe is the future and they believe that they can work with, as a fan of Eric Ten Hag, I say, okay, sack him. At the moment, I probably don't agree with it, but if that is the direction you want to go, that is why they're going to be paid the big bucks, and they got more knowledge of it than me. So I would lean to that he will be, but look, a couple more losses and a defeat in the fifth round or quarterfinal of the FA Cup, and we finish sixth or seventh. A lot of the evidence and weight will point to an exit and a new manager. Just where I sit at the moment, Ineos might have that new manager in the back pocket. I just don't know who that is at the moment. So until I'm aware of who I want as a new manager, I'm siding with the Dutchman.
Yeah, at the moment, the FA Cup draw is very favourable, but I would be concerned if, say, United got a quarter-final draw against Manchester City or Liverpool, we'd be done, I think. Now, yes, there has been issues above the manager. The structure has been appalling, and he's been left to do most of the transfer business himself. Not all of it, of course, but it's very easy to see that a number of the signings in the last two summer windows have obviously either played in the Eredivisie or played under Ten Hag in the past, and that is not a great way to run a modern football club. But we have to look. I mean, obviously, there's many issues with Ronaldo and Sancho. So many injuries as well. He's been unlucky with injuries. There's no doubt about that. But there are things that do concern me. And just looking at how United are just not compact, and the Tottenham Hotspur game was an example of that. Even though we didn't lose that game, we were fortunate not to. We were playing against a Spurs team missing their three best attacking players, and they still beat us off the pitch. And we only had 2 shots on target at home. But it's how United, the front three are pressing up. The back four sit 60 yards behind. They're sitting deep. And then the midfield is having to cover. 3 men are covering 60 yards of space. So one pass is all's needed by the opponents to take our midfield out of the game. I don't understand that setup. I also don't understand how we're so bad at defending set pieces. Now, we've all been blaming Eric Ramsey, but it turns out that the MEN had written an article back in April last year that he wasn't solely in charge of set pieces anymore. Ten Hag had taken a more hands-on approach, and that he had taken in a set piece analyst to help him with that. But United don't score from set pieces, and they can't defend from set pieces. It's alarming. So these are reasons why I am, concerned about Eric Ten Hag's future. If he doesn't sort these things out, then I just don't see him being here beyond the season. Uh, how do you see it, Tom?
No, no, look, 100%. Everyone sort of, if someone is side on the fence of a new manager, as the things you point to, 100% correct. And there is pressure on him, and he does have questions to answer and room for improvement. And yeah, if he is to lose his job, that is the nature of the beast at Manchester United and football management at the highest level. There is no doubt about that. In regards to set pieces, I agree. But I think every club has that debate about set pieces. I've discussed with every club around the world. We never score from set pieces. Oh my God, we look shaky defending them. That is it now. We're feeling that really sort of very intensely at the moment. But set pieces, look, ultimately, it does fall on the manager's doorstep. But it's one of those. The set piece manager is at the assistant coach. Who knows? In regards to, again, it's a huge concern, which you correctly highlight in regards to the midfield. Yeah, we're pressing high up, and then the defence is back on the 18-yard box. There's this big gap. Where I sit on that is very interesting because, look, ultimately that does fall on the manager in regards to tactical setup. However, it was identical last year, really, except when the ball went into midfield, we kept it. Christian Eriksen kept the ball, Casemiro kept the ball, Bruno Fernandes was a little bit more disciplined than what we have. Our midfield just played better last year. Now we're looking at it this year. Our issues with the midfield's not so much the individuals; it's more so the balance of the midfield. But I remember last season, Anthony and Diego Dalot, who had quite good seasons last season, maybe not to Gary Neville and David Beckham standards, but considering where we were last year, solid enough sort of 6, 7 out of 10 performances from Anthony and Diego Dalot. There was 60 metres between those guys last season, but it wasn't highlighted because we weren't losing as many games. The issues were still there. So that is something you can obviously point to Eric Ten Hag, but you could look at a trophy and 2 finals and a Champions League place finish. You could look at somewhat, I don't want to say success, but a decent enough season. Same issues happening now, but with losses. And now those issues are highlighted, and look, rightly so, because it's not good enough. But I'm a very simple man in regards to the way I view my football, and the concerns around Eric Ten Hag's tactical setup are valid, 100%. You just look at it, how exposed we are in midfield. Surely there is a fix to that, regardless of if you like Scott McTominay or you like Christian Eriksen or you think Mason Mount is number 10 or box to box or whatever your feelings are. There is an issue with that balance, and that ultimately falls on the manager, whether he has injuries or not. I'm very simple, though, in the way I view it. The individuals just need to play better. Get the ball at your feet, control it, pass, move. At the moment, I've seen Bruno Fernandes, who sometimes shows world-class ability. Sometimes I've seen him control the ball this season, bouncing off his knee and going out for a throw-in. I'm just thinking, that's not balance, that's not tactical setup, that's not the manager. Players just need to do their job better. Look, you and I are big fans of Roy Keane. Do your job. And I just think we're looking at all these factors as to why people aren't doing it. Remember, how many years did we spend trying to unlock Paul Pogba? There was a reason for Paul Pogba's bad performances. It was because he didn't have this player next to him, or he didn't have this speed to the right of him. No, players need to do their job. And I just felt, whether midfield or up front or at the back, our players this year, just individually, just the basics. Running, controlling the ball, passing, moving. And I just feel if one person doesn't do that, that affects the next person. And it's a sort of a domino effect. And there are 100% valid questions pointed to Eric Ten Hag in regards to the balance of that midfield. Can't hide from that. But I also think the players need to just play better. And I think if they start controlling the ball and passing the ball with a little bit more zip and moving with a little bit more intent, things will start to fall into place. Now, will it fall into place good enough for Manchester United to take the next step? I'm not sure. But yeah, so I think blame lies from the Glazers, the CEO, to Eric Ten Hag, to the players, to the people who set out the cones, the set piece coach, etc. I think blame is evenly shared around, and this is where you do have to place trust in a Berrada, in a Sir Jim Ratcliffe, in a Jean-Claude Blanc to make the decisions, to fix it, and to move in the right direction.
Yeah, the blame is certainly collective. The players and the manager both have to take responsibility. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Regards to Bruno, yeah, some of his touches have just been awful.
Yeah.
A lot of the passing this season from players, just some very basic passing, just getting it wrong. And another person who's guilty of that is the goalkeeper. And we thought he was going to be this massive upgrade on De Gea when it came to his distribution, and he has been terrible. And he has been awful for Cameroon in the AFCON
Yeah, I've
recently
seen
too.
that.
I've seen pass to the left back that went straight out of play. Some of the goals he was suspect on. Definitely, I think it was the third one for Senegal, where it wasn't. It was like a shot from a cutback and didn't have much power on it. And he reacted to it very late, and it just trickled into the corner. That was woeful. Um, do you think he's past the point of no return now, Onana? Do you think he's going to have to be written off in the summer?
Yeah, that's hard. That's a fascinating. Like as a neutral, that'd be fascinating to watch the footballing department address that issue. Do you give him time? If a new manager comes in, do you stick with him? If Eric Ten Hag stays there, do you cancel his? Who knows? It's a fascinating issue. Just my hunch on Onana. Look, I was a big fan of David De Gea. While I could see an argument to move De Gea on and move forward with the times of football, I accepted that and I could see it. And if someone wanted to say that, I don't think they were wrong. I just thought with the issues we're currently facing ahead of this season, I did think the goalkeeper wasn't one of them. I thought, okay, it might be somewhere you can improve, of course, but you can improve every area of the pitch. I didn't see it as a huge priority. I thought the clips and social media treatment of David De Gea was over the top, and I thought that contributed a lot to the narrative around David De Gea. I don't think it was as bad. He wasn't up to standard, of course, so he needed to improve. No shying away from that, but he wasn't as bad as many people made out. I thought he was solid enough. Again, to where Manchester United want to be, maybe not, but he wasn't a disaster as Twitter would make out. On Onana, it's one of those ones. No one backs players more than me and gives them more patience than me. So I will back him. I will show patience, and there is obviously ability. There's obviously a goalkeeper somewhere there. I just don't see it. I just think it'll be one of those ones we look back in 10 years' time. God, remember when we brought Onana in? What a disaster that was, as was with Taibbi, as with Roy Carroll, Mark Bosnich, Fabian Barthez. I just think, look, not many players, unfortunately, are cut out to be Manchester United goalkeeper. He might be brilliant somewhere else, so as he has shown he can be. So I've got faith in him. No, actually, I wouldn't say I've got faith in him. I've got patience, and we'll back him. But my gut feeling, which I'm not sure if usually right or wrong, just says, no, I don't think it'll work. Now, does that mean selling this season? Maybe the perfect goalkeeper. Let's say Onana's not going to work out and he's not the goalkeeper. Is the goalkeeper that will work, is he available? So do you sell Onana and bring him in? Like if he's not ready, it's a tricky situation. I'm not saying just sell him because I don't think he's good enough, but it is definitely an issue the football department is going to have to look at because it's not working.
Yeah, mentally, I don't think he's up for it. He's kind of our Claudio Bravo, except he costs £43 million, and I'm sure he's on a decent wage, and it's going to be hard to shift him after just one season. But it is going to be interesting to see how Ineos deal with that situation. Now, I think we do have a chance to get further up the table if we get the Martinez from last season and the Casemiro from last season. Definitely with Casemiro, it's a big if. Um, Martinez will help us get further up the pitch, I think. Help us play more of a high line, and his distribution from the back is one of the best in the world. So that might help us get into a Europa League spot, but I think it's going to be a hell of a challenge for us to get into the top four now because we're so far behind. We can't even afford to drop any more points, and we know that we will. And scoring goals is definitely a problem. We've seen the return of Ivan Toney last night. He took 19 minutes of his first game to score more goals than Anthony this season. Anthony being another disastrous signing, and he cost £86 million. I can't. If we bring in a new coach in the summer, I don't think he's going to keep Anthony. Probably won't keep Onana either. These are fast becoming write-offs. And the blame, unfortunately, is going to lie with Ten Hag, given he managed these players before at Ajax. But across the front, we have struggled to score goals. I think Martial has one goal. He's now cried off completely. It seems that every time there's a transfer window, he's injured or he's ill. He's just going to see out his deal now. He might not even play again. Hoyland, obviously young lad. He's finally become our top scorer, but he's only got two in the league. I didn't expect him to score 20 league goals this season, but I hope he'd have more than two by this stage. And I know he's missed chances himself, and he hasn't been helped by the service. Rashford, massive drop off this season. 30 last season, only sitting on 4, and we're over halfway now this season. Garnacho has probably been the star of the show when it comes to the forwards. He's definitely gone up a couple of levels. We've now discovered that the right wing may be his position. But overall, we're not getting many goals from our forwards this season. I think we've only scored 24 in the league and conceded 29. Pretty abysmal stats, isn't it, Tom?
It's I've almost made a sort of a bit of a pact with myself not to look at the table. I don't want to see how many points we are off top four because it'll give you that little bit of hope if like Newcastle or Tottenham drop points and then suddenly we win. You get, or maybe if we sort of get a bit of momentum, maybe we can sort of creep back into it. Then you'll be disappointed in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So I'm not looking at the table, and I can just only imagine what our goal. I don't know. If, the goal difference that's been a disaster the last couple of years, it seems, in regards to trying to get into positive numbers where you look back when we were kids, it was plus 60, plus 70, plus 80 in regards to our goal difference, and that's not the case. So I've tried to look away from that, but you just mentioned the overall point in regards to scoring. Yeah, it hasn't been. Look, football is a very simple game at the end of the day, complicated by idiots, and football, you need to score goals, and we all made this point at the start of the transfer window in regards to Rasmus Højlund in the end. So, okay, maybe he's a good player, but whether he's worth 60 million, whether he's not worth that, Manchester United should not go into a season where your number one striker is a kid who scored a handful of goals in Serie A. And that is where you look at Harry Kane went to Bayern Munich. He looks quite comfortable there, you could say, in regards to his goal scoring form. So he can do it elsewhere at a big club. And ideal, let's say in 10 years' time, when our new structure resembles that of what Manchester City currently are today, well, that's when we would have brought in Rasmus Højlund and Harry Kane. That isn't what the Glazers did allow us a couple of months ago, and we're paying the price now. It just mentioned no team, let alone Manchester United, that probably exemplifies the issue, but no team should go into a season looking for success at the highest level of football, and your number one striker is a kid who scored a handful of goals in another league. That's not the recipe for success, and that's what we were given, and that's we can point to, okay, that was Erik ten Hag's plan or not, or only he will know that. I don't think it is. I think that's an easy stick to beat him with, but ultimately it does look like his decision in regards to what has resulted, what we've seen on the pitch, and it just hasn't worked. So, and that's not just Højlund, that's Marcus Rashford, that's Anthony, that's the players in and around that, Bruno Fernandes, etc. Anthony Martial, you got to throw Mason Greenwood. He hasn't made himself available for whatever reason, so it's not good times at the moment. Fingers crossed, as I said, in regards to the overriding news of the new CEO. Things do change in a new direction, but as things stand, we are paying the price for many bad decisions, not just this window, but in previous ones.
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret that Erik ten Hag wanted Harry Kane in the summer, but United decided very early on not to pursue that, given the price they were going to be quoted by Tottenham Hotspur. But the argument can be made that if United did not sign Onana or Mason Mount and just spent the money on Harry Kane and kept David De Gea, we would be a better team right now. And it's hard to argue against that, isn't it?
It's hard to argue. And look, it's something I couldn't agree with more. But then would it shock you if we were in that position and we did that and we just weren't getting the ball to Harry Kane and we'll sort of just have a 0-0 draw sort of thing? Would we be having a better season then? We'd be saying it would be better having a better goalkeeper in terms of playing out from the back, and that would create more chances for a lesser striker. I just think I agree 100%. Keep David De Gea, spend that money on Harry Kane, and I think we are a better team. But it wouldn't shock me if we did that and Harry Kane was sitting on 7 or 8 goals. I think until everything is right, until everything is in the right sort of direction, and everyone is on the same path, I think no matter whatever fix we make in this area, something will be dragging it down in another area. And it's easy in hindsight to say this would work because this hasn't. And very well, that might be the case. We might be top of the league if Harry Kane and David De Gea were here. My gut would tell me we'll probably be in a very similar position, but we might be sort of directing our frustration somewhere else.
One thing I will say about Harry Kane is he's not just a number 9; he's a creative player as well.
Oh, yeah, brilliant player.
So he would have helped us create more chances, I think, too. So he might have got more goals in 7 or 8, I think. Maybe not as many as he got at Bayern, obviously, but I do think he'd be in double figures. And you just look at some of the chances that have been missed in that centre forward area. Definitely he would have taken those. And one skill that Højlund needs to work on is definitely his heading. and you know Harry Kane is a brilliant header of the ball. So yeah, I think we really should have went after, and he would have wanted to remain in England if given the opportunity. We were told by reliable
I
journalists.
thought it was nailed on, to be honest. So with no information, how am I going to have any inside information? I just thought it was nailed on for him to join United if we could stump up the cash, which is obviously a telling point in the discussion. But I thought it was just nailed on. England's number 9, come to Old Trafford. I just thought, yeah, it was nailed on. And then Bayern Munich, what the hell? Why would he go to Germany and then forfeit the Premier League goal scoring record? To be honest, he could probably come back and do the Premier League goal scoring record in a couple of years' time after he's won a few trophies. I still think that is still within his capabilities. But yeah, I was shocked. I was nailed on. He's got to be a Manchester United striker if he was to leave Tottenham. And he left, of course. Didn't see Bayern Munich, and fair play to him. He's gone there and done extremely well, and looks like he'll go on and be a success.
Yeah, even some of my mates who support Arsenal were saying for years that Harry Kane's got Manchester United written all over him.
Yeah, I
But
just
the club just didn't make it happen. They weren't willing to pay the money. And I mean, given the sums that they wasted on the likes of Anthony and Paul Pogba, it's amazing that they weren't willing to go to 100 million for Harry Kane. Uh, so frustrating. But United could really do with some support up front. Martial, like I say, has cried off. Hoyland totally on his own now. Do you think there's any chance United could get a striker in on loan this summer or this winter again? We've got Veghorst in before, we've got a Gallo in before. Now we're careful not to break any FFP rules that we've seen other clubs fall victim to. So this is why we're not spending big in January until we're able to make proper sales in the summer. So I'm glad that we didn't get Timo Werner in. We've seen him missing chances against us, but we really need someone. But I'm not sure who that is, and we're not really been linked with anyone at the moment. So I'm starting to think it's not going to happen. Is that how you see it, Tom?
it's where I'd lean to, and not in regards to a preference, but it's where I'd lean to. I don't think anything is going to happen. And look, we can sit here and say we don't accept the financial fair play argument in regards to the money's there, go spend it. We'll work your way around it, make it happen. But I do honestly think, especially with the threat of the Premier League handing out 10-point deductions here and there, trying to obviously strengthen their case against Manchester City for down the track, I think there is a legitimate hesitancy from the clubs, especially clubs like Manchester United, in and around financial fair play over the next year or two. And I think it just, imagine what's happening behind the scenes in regards to meetings and CEOs and new ownership and takeovers and transfer markets and everything. With such a chaotic time, I just think rushing into a stupid bit of business for the sake of it, I think could potentially be detrimental. If someone can come in on loan, as I agree with you, bring someone, I don't know who. Someone could say this striker, I could say this striker. I'm not sure who that answer is. If it is going to be someone, I think it is someone along the lines of Veghorst, Gallo, that type of signing, who you think, oh my God, sort of what's here, but then probably turns into a bit of a cult favourite, a bit of a cult hero for a couple of weeks, sort of thing. So I would like to see a lone striker come in. Who that is, I'm sure everyone a couple of weeks ago was saying Benzema. Yeah, ideally, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. If it is, that'd be great. Even if it does come in and we say that's good, you could very well make an argument to say, well, it's not good. Like, you should have got this guy instead. So I would like to see a lone striker come in. If I was a betting man, I don't think it'll happen. And maybe that is the right decision. Just financially, maybe it is the right decision not to do it. I'm not sure. But my gut says, we won't get anyone, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it was Thomas Sheth at Sky Sports said Benzema is very unlikely because he's only 6 months into his contract out there in the Saudi Pro League, and United could only afford a fraction of his wages. So there's no way 6 months in that a Saudi club is going to pay the majority of his wages to go and play for Manchester United for 6 months.
Yeah.
Ain't going to happen. So that would be an amazing signing as a 6 month loan deal. He's been one of the best strikers in the world in the last 15 years and still got plenty left in the tank. And we know that he's 36, 37, but at 6 months, it's a no-brainer. But it doesn't seem like it's likely at the moment now. Another thing that I've been happy with regard to Ineos is the fact that Jim Radcliffe did a press conference just before the Spurs game. Now, you could never imagine Joe Glazer sitting doing a press conference with the English media, and he didn't say very much, but he just wanted to say hello basically and introduce himself. And he said once they get their regulatory ratification, and they can officially get their feet underneath the table, they will do a more in-depth press conference in
Yeah.
mid-February, um, and he will be able to answer questions more freely. But it's great to see that an owner who, and we also seen him getting selfies with a lot of the supporters after the game. You couldn't imagine Abraham Glazer getting selfies with Man United fans. I mean, you'd look
Look,
even.
a very easy win, and PR, a good PR has a sort of very negative feeling amongst Manchester United fans at the moment in regards to we just sort of almost see through it. But sometimes PR makes people feel better, and it is good. So it was a very easy win, and I do think it comes from a place of sort of good intent. I don't think it's sort of a deceiving approach to PR, but I do think Sir Jim is doing it for the greater good. And yeah, it's something very simple. But I always said that we're going to have to see a lot more affirmative sort of confirmation in regards to his plans when it is fully sort of ratified, no pun intended, from the Premier League, and he's actually in charge and can get to work. I want to see a proper press conference there with proper questions and a proper detailed plan on what's going to happen. But at the moment, with his hands tied to what he can say, a very easy win and rightfully coming out. And these people could say it's a dig at the Glazers. They haven't done it in 18 years. It's simple, like just standard practice to come in and, okay, you're going to sort of be in charge of a people's football club. You go and show them respect and put your face in front of the camera and talk to us. And okay, it's a good thing in regards to what he's saying, but also just from, as I said, like, no, manners is the word, just a manners and respect point of view in regards to treating people with respect, which is what the Glazers haven't done. So Jim has done, and look, we can sit here and we say we need 3 points, we need this striker, we need to get back to Champions League football, we need this, we need that style of play. No, we need to get back to sort of just common decency in regards to the core values of what Manchester United is. Maybe that might start with a press conference. Maybe that's where the starting point is.
Yeah, it's an open goal, isn't it? And he's taking it. Just be the complete opposite of the Glazers, and you will get the backing of the Manchester United fans. We just want owners to be transparent and talk to the media, even if it's just MUTV. We want to have access to these owners, get their point of view on what their plans are, and he's doing a good job of that so far. Um, it just came into my head there. We were talking about loan strikers. The best loan striker in terms of January in United's history is definitely Henrik Larsson. I would love to get him on loan this January. He could probably still do a job. He keeps himself in great shape. But he was a magnificent loan sign, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, well, he actually didn't score too many goals, but yeah, the feeling around him and his contribution, the 1 or 2 goals that he scored, big goals, and obviously went on to sort of win the Premier League, so it's a far better feeling. But yeah, he's the one that definitely stands out. Other January strikers, really, they're hard to come by. Louis Saha, a couple of years before came in, that was obviously a permanent transfer. But it's just hard, like I say, like, rattle off the names for strikers available this window who's going to come in and score. What we need in terms of getting back to the Champions League and winning an FA Cup, you'd probably want someone to come in and score 10, 15 goals. And Karim Benzema, he might not do that. You put Erling Haaland in Manchester, he might not do that. Like, it's a big ask. So I just think there's no guarantee that Harry Kane's not available. So there's no real guarantee of sort of who's going to score those goals. So it's a tricky spot for United, and time will tell. What, we've got 10 or so days left of the window.
Yeah, I think Larsson only got a few goals, but although he did have a magnificent goal disallowed, that for offside. I remember that he was so frustrated.
Yeah, last one was brilliant. Of course, I just remember maybe a couple of months ago, actually sort of look back at his numbers and, geez, I thought he scored more than that.
But the partnership with Rooney, they just clicked right away.
Yeah.
Playing 1-2s like Jurgen Cole. I think it was a third round FA Cup match against Villa was his debut,
Villa.
and the two of them were just on fire together. And then obviously when Tevez came in, he probably he clicked with Rooney right away as well. They said it couldn't work; they were too similar, but how wrong the media were on that one. Yeah, we really need to get someone in. I think someone decent. But that's going to be hard to come by when you're in the loan market in January. You really are. You're scraping around, and players are, clubs are not going to give good players away on loan. So it's a difficult one. We're going to have to get creative. But it doesn't look likely at the moment. But United might pull a rabbit out of the hat on deadline day. I think Gallo was deadline day, wasn't he? It was only a
Yeah.
few days after he brought Bruno Fernandes in. So you just never know. There could be a striker in the Chinese league or the Saudi league or somewhere that just needs a loan deal. No, so no, in one of those countries where the league ends in November and doesn't start again until
Yeah.
March. Yeah, yeah, we could. But I'm really at a loss as to who it's going to be. And obviously, another option is someone who's not really playing at the moment for their club, like Danny Ings. I think he's
Mm.
going to be moving again in this window. But
Someone's name will pop up and it'll change our opinion. We'll say, yep, he's the man or he's not the man. Like something will happen, whether it eventuates. I think there will be a proper story out there in a couple of days' time. Time will tell if it does come to fruition or not, though.
yeah, but like you say, there's no point in signing someone permanently,
Yeah.
and putting our
Look,
financial position at risk.
even if it was a good striker, it made sense. Like you could sign a 30-goal a season striker for 10 million. Even I wouldn't do that now, just in regards to the situation around the manager and who's going to be in charge next season in the football department. I think any permanent transfer just stick away for now.
Yeah, I don't think unless I want to do any permanent transfers until the summer, until they're firmly in charge and got their people running the operation. Um, we certainly don't want to make any more Dutch signings or players from the Dutch league, unless they're got superstar potential. And I was joking on Twitter the other day that Jordan Henderson now fits the criteria to be a Ten Hag signing at Manchester United.
Mm.
But I was just being a bit, funny about that. But
That's scary. That's scary, but yeah, a bit tongue in cheek.
yeah, it was tongue in cheek. Yeah. So our next game is Newport County. That should be a formality, even though it's an away game at a 7,000 seater stadium. Um, and but I mean, we're probably going to be playing one of our strongest 11s in that team because I think Shaw is going to be back. Casemiro and Martinez are going to start. You expect, Rashford, Hoyland, Garnacho to start that game. Yeah, so they'll try and make it difficult for us. They'll turn the heating off in our dressing room. They'll take the forks to the grass. It'll be freezing conditions, and they'll put the boot in where they can. But you should expect United to get the job done in this game. I don't see this being a giant killing game. I think United will safely get through to the fifth round at the first time of asking.
Yes, look, I think it'll be. I think it'll be tough, but look, tough or not, I think United will sort of comfortably go through. I don't think it's going to be these one as 4 or 5 nil, which very well could be if we score an early goal, of course. But I think it will be a tough tie, whether we go strong or weak, which we obviously will go stronger and rightly so. But I think it's one of those ones cup people. I think let's say we win 2-0 and it's a bit of a sort of 50-50 battle. It's not a convincing performance. I think a lot of people will sort of go over the top with their criticisms. I'm very simple with the FA Cup. Did you progress? Yes or no? And I think that determines success. Now, obviously, we do want good football, but I don't think we're going to get that away at Newport. I don't think that's where the tide's going to turn in regards to a new style of play. For me, that one comes down to did we get through? And I do back Man United too, but yeah, not expecting great football. I think it might be a little bit tougher than what people think.
Yeah, I'm expecting maybe a 2-0 or a 3-0. I'm not expecting 5 or 6. If it was at Old Trafford, yeah, I would be
Yeah.
expecting 5 or 6. But yeah, how many goals we will get might be determined by how early we score. If we score like one in the first half, then I think it'll be 2 or 3-0, similar to the Wigan game. But if we score very very early,
Yeah.
there's an opportunity then to score 5 or 6. But as long as we get through, yeah, that's the main thing. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about Newport's players or give you any technical analysis on Newport County. I'll leave that up to other people. But Tom, thanks for coming on again as always.
No, pleasure. As said, United haven't ruined the weekend, which is good. So it's good to come on and have sort of a positive chat today, just in regards to, well, look, we don't know what the future holds, but positive signs, fingers crossed.
Go ahead and check out Tom's show. It's called the United Pubcast, and he's going to be live shortly with his co-host Larry. So if everyone could please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and get more of your thoughts in down below. And the link to Tom's show is in the description. And I shall see you again next time, Tom.
Cheers, mate. Pleasure. You have a good one.